A young girl named Esther saw someone walk past her. She noticed a pair of black wings behind the person and wondered if it was a black angel. However, she eventually saw a group of crows surrounding the person, causing his view to be obscured, and he bumped into her. Dietrich immediately came over and confronted the man, asking what he was trying to do to Esther. He then told Esther to go home as it was almost night and dangerous. They later found out that this strange man was actually a priest known as Father Abel Nightroad. At the Catholic church called St. Matthias Church, the caretaker, Vietz, welcomed him, mentioning that he had just come from Rome. Vietz was relieved that Father Abel Nightroad arrived before nightfall, as the area was quite dangerous and covered in true darkness. Vietz then proceeds to call Esther, who is a sister at the church, to take their guest to his room. Esther came out to meet the guest, and it turned out it was the same Esther he bumped into earlier on his way to the church. He was surprised because he had thought Esther was a boy by the way she dressed up earlier, but was punched by Esther, who stopped him from saying it out completely because she does not want Vietz to know about that. Meanwhile, Vietz is quite oblivious about it and thought that they were really getting along, so she left them to each other. Esther brought Father Abel Nightroad to his room, which turned out to be a very old room, but out of fear of being beaten up by Esther, he complimented the room, even likened it to when someone is back in a mother's womb again. Father Abel Nightroad later asked Esther why she was dressed up in men's clothes with some dangerous chemicals. She replied that she did not want to worry the bishop, as the bishop was like a mother to her. Father Abel Nightroad then experienced a stomachache, mentioning that it had been 3 days since he had last eaten. Esther hurried to get him some food, leaving him alone with his thoughts. As soon as she left, Father Abel wondered why God gave the sword to the young and weak. His mind drifted to the numerous burdens and responsibilities placed upon those who were often least prepared to bear them. In an estate, a car drove in, to which a row of soldiers welcomed the vampire, Lord Dula, who then asked if anything happened during the time he was not in Isfahan, to which the leader then replied that there is a small rebellion by the townsmen, but they have subdued it. Lord Dula then noticed Major Ikis, to which he asked if it was true that a Roman priest was sent here, which the major replied affirmative, and even stated the exact time he arrived and the church he was sent to. The leader then informed Lord Dula that the people involved in the rebellion often visited the St. Matthias Church, to which he asked if they should strengthen their defense, as they are ready to mobilize by tonight should he give the command. However, Lord Dula told them not to do anything, as the church is sacred, and for that kind of places the human strength cannot take it down. He then instructed Major Ikis to form a continuous patrol around the city. Esther was seen in the kitchen trying to make some dinner for Father Abel, to which Dietrich came over to inform her that he got an information from their ally, that Lord Dula has returned and that everyone seems to want to make a move soon, to which he asked Esther about what she plans to do. They were startled when they heard a disturbance coming from the chapel, and they hurried over there to see a vampire that had already taken the lives of several of the clergymen by draining their blood. Dietrich instantly pulled out his weapon and commanded Esther to flee, telling her that she should not disturb anyone else but Lord Dula, to whom she was devoted. He then proceeded to shoot silver bullets at the vampire, who managed to avoid the gunshots, and then went on to steal the gun from him. After that, he punched him in an effort to keep him alive and bring him back to Lord Dula. After that, he inquired of Esther the extent to which she intended to cause harm to the citizens of the town in the name of the Lord. After that, Esther responded by saying that she and her allies will safeguard Istvan from creatures of this nature. This term enraged the vampire, who decided to kill her. However, as he gets closer to her and grabbed her throat, someone fell from the attic into the chapel, and it turned out to be Father Abel. Esther tried to call out to run away. Seeing the priest, the vampire became enraged as he charged at Father Abel with a sharp fang that grew out of his back. But to everyone's surprise, Father Abel easily grabbed the fang and pulled it out, which led to a huge amount of blood gushing out of the wound. The vampire cried out in pain and realized that Father Abel was actually from the Vatican's Ministry of State. He was about to arrest the vampire, who then retaliated with the regenerative fangs, which stabbed into Father Abel, saying that his kind can regenerate, as they are known as Methuselahs. The vampire then added that if the humans can act humble, then they will tolerate their existence. At that moment, some kind of restrictions on Father Abel was released to about 40%, to which Father Abel then transformed into a being with a pair of black wings, and his eyes are red, a Crusnik. However, he really do not have any choice but to reveal this form, and his wound have been healed as well. He then revealed that since vampires feed on humans' blood, then the Crusnik feed on vampires' blood. Esther and Dietrich later woke up from where they fainted, to which Dietrich apologized to Esther for not being able to protect her well and not being capable enough to save the people who were killed. Esther told him not to blame himself for that. She then remembered Father Abel, who had already transformed back to his usual self and was munching on some sliced bread with peanut butter. He even lied to Esther when she asked about the vampire, saying that when he threatened to shoot him, the vampire ran away. Esther watched Father Abel with a mix of relief and curiosity. She sensed there was more to the story than he was letting on, but she chose not to press him for details at that moment. Lord Jula was seen in his place as he looked at the picture of his wife, as he made a promise to make those who imprisoned her pay for their crimes. Lord Jula was having a meeting with Colonel Radcon and Major Ekis about the fact that the Vatican had raised some frightening monsters, to which he wondered if Abel Nightroad is one of them. So he instructed them to eliminate Abel Nightroad, as he does not want anything to happen to his plan. At the same time, Father Abel was seen as he sneezed due to the cold weather. They were paying respects to those that were killed by the vampire. The funeral had finished an hour ago, but Esther was seen as she was still praying, to which Dietrich told him that Esther always says that Estavan is cold and the days are short, so one should at least send their prayers to the dead while it's still bright. Dietrich talked about his past. His family was Germanicus, and his parents were killed by vampires. The first time he saw her, she was like this, praying for his parents and him. That was the time he decided to protect her in the future no matter what, and yet he is not capable enough. Esther walked up to the bishop with a determined look on her face. Her voice was steady, but with a sad undertone. She said she was going to leave the church and go to Jula's house to fight the vampires. She couldn't stand to see anyone else get hurt, and she knew that if nothing was done, the church could be attacked again. Even though there were risks, she made the choice because she wanted to protect her friends and her faith. The bishop knew how serious her decision was, so she stepped forward and gave her a gentle hug. She knew how important Esther's job was and how brave she had to be to do it. Even though the bishop was a kind and strong woman, she reluctantly agreed that this path was important. And then she told Dietrich and Father Abel to watch over Esther while she was on the trip. The bishop finally let them go after Esther promised to come back safely. As Esther and her allies were about to leave, the tranquil atmosphere of the church was shattered by a sudden, deafening explosion. The ground trembled, and the air filled with dust and debris. Panic ensued as the churchgoers scrambled for safety, their cries echoing through the sacred halls. In the chaos, Esther turned to see Bishop Vietz lying motionless on the ground, the life already drained from her body. Shock and grief gripped Esther's heart, but there was no time to mourn. Father Abel, ever the protector, grabbed her arm and pulled her to safety, his eyes filled with urgency and determination. Dietrich, his face pale but resolute, took Esther's hand and led her away from the devastation. As they made their escape, the sound of gunfire and further explosions echoed behind them. It was clear that the church was under attack by well-armed assailants. As they fled, Esther glanced back to see Father Abel standing firm, facing the attackers with unwavering courage. Among the chaos, she caught a glimpse of Major Ikis and Colonel Radcon, leading their soldiers in the assault. The realization hit her like a blow. This was a coordinated attack, designed to strike at the heart of their sanctuary. Father Abel was surprised that the bombing was caused by the city's army, who are supposed to protect, not to destroy. Colonel Radcon became enraged by what Father Abel said, so he asked Major Ikistres to go after Esther and Dietrich while he would deal with Father Abel. However, Father Abel told him that they should both face him together since they might get busy dealing with him. This prompted Colonel Radcon to ask Major Ikis that they should attack Father Abel together, to which Ikis agreed and then set their firepower at Father Abel. Meanwhile, the other army surrounded Father Abel as well, who then immediately asked for God's forgiveness as he released the restrictions on him, turning to a Crusnik. At the same time, Ikis had already entered battle mode, to which he unleashed a barrage of shots towards the direction of Father Abel. However, he had indirectly killed the army behind Abel. This shocked Colonel Radcon as he realized that Icus was actually a traitor and was working for the Vatican's Ministry of State. As Colonel Radcon wanted to attack Icus in rage, he got kicked squarely in the face by Icus, who then explained that he was never on his side since the start and that there is one thing that goes against the original plan, which is that he does not remember being ordered to bomb the church. Colonel Radcon suddenly brought out his gun, which he shot at Icus, who immediately put up his guard and turned out to be a machine and not human, to which Colonel Radcon was dumbfounded. Icus then reveals that he was being sent from the Vatican Ministry of Special Operations with the codename Gunslinger. After dealing with Colonel Radcon, Father Abel informed Icus that the vampire captured yesterday and the soldiers just now were all been left in charge of the Iron Maiden to San Angelo. Father Abel then apologized to Icus about the trouble caused today and then asked him if he was the one who asked the citizens nearby to hide, to which Icus replied that he was not the one. Meanwhile, he expressed his thoughts about Father Abel not to reveal his power in front of humans and even commended him for protecting the citizens within the vicinity of battle. He added that he will go to the city to help get it under control as the Marquess of Hungary's plan is still in motion. He implored Father Abel to move quickly to stop it. Meanwhile, Esther was seen outside of the burning church as she held the cross, thinking about Beats, to which she burst into tears. Father Abel then came over to meet her and was relieved that Dietrich indeed brought her to a safe place. He comforted her about the loss of a motherly figure to her and told her that he is with her so she should not cry again. There was a second moon that arose in the sky after Armageddon, and it was referred to as the vampire moon. When Father Abel, Esther, and Dietrich arrived at the castle of Jula, a heavy pillar of lightning struck the mountain in front of them. Father Abel urged them to hurry since the lightning was causing the mountain to be struck. While everything was going on, Jula was observed in a room that contained a picture of his wife. He had been looking forward to this day since he intended to eliminate everyone who has been working against him. As soon as Esther and the others arrived at the location where Jula was, they inquired about the pillar of light that they had just witnessed. Jula responded by stating that it was the Star of Sorrow, that it was a weapon that humbles the ignorant masses from its lofty height among the stars, and that it was a star of hope that his wife had left for him. It was well known to him that Esther would have interpreted the pillar of light as a manifestation of God's wrath against the church because of its destruction. Esther grew outraged and launched an arrow at Jula, who just caught it in his fingers and then sent it back at Esther, aiming to murder her. However, Father Abel swiftly intervened and stopped the arrow from hitting Jula. The next thing he did was inquire of Jula whether or not he was the one who had caused his colleague, the axe field operator Crusnik, some trouble. Following that, he inquired of Jula whether he would be willing to disable the Star of Sorrow, stating that it had never been intended to be utilized as a weapon, and that Jula's wife would never want the star to be utilized in such a manner. After that, Jula responded by saying that he did this because the Terrans of the Vatican have a horrible temperament because they hunt them down in a cold and determined manner as they chant phrases of love, and that the priests of the Vatican were the ones who were responsible for the death of his wife, Maria, by burning her. At that moment, Father Abel was taken aback by the news. Jula proceeded by saying that his wife had been murdered for no other reason than the fact that her husband is a vampire. In response, Father Abel proclaimed that this was the final night for the Vatican and then inquired of Dietrich whether the second shot had been positioned appropriately. It was revealed that Dietrich had deceived Esther on account of the fact that he was truly on Jula's side. He responded with the coordinates of the target, which was located in the middle of Rome. Because Esther was so taken aback by the revelation that Dietrich was, in fact, a traitor, she dropped her crossbow without even realizing it. Dietrich then handed her his gun and held it in her hands while accusing her of lying about everything, including the narrative of his parents being murdered by vampires. Dietrich said that everything had been a lie. Then Father Abel questioned Dietrich about the reason he had betrayed Esther, to which Dietrich responded that he had just done it because it was enjoyable. After that, Jula made fun of her for trusting a partner who turned out to be a vampire. Esther became upset and shot at Jula, but the bullet instead pierced Father Abel, which caused Dietrich to confess that she is being controlled like a puppet is being controlled by strings. After that, he exerted his hold over her to cause her to fire another shot at Father Abel in an attempt to murder him. After that, Dietrich parted ways to put the idea into action. However, Father Abel assaulted Jula and shot him, which prevented him from carrying out his plan to drink Esther's blood. Esther is overjoyed to discover that Father Abel is still alive. He then informed her that he cannot abandon her, and that he cannot leave her alone. He then assured Esther that he is well and can cope with his wounds while he dealt with Jula. He then told Esther that it is not over since she needs to go after Dietrich because only he can stop the Star of Sorrow. He also assured her that he would deal with both of them. Jula grew infuriated as he recovered from the wounds, and he then converted his hand into a long fang. He then used this fang to attack Father Abel, but Father Abel easily avoided it due to the activation of his powers as Crusnik, and he even severed the arm that had been transformed. In the process of observing Father Abel's transformed appearance, Jula was taken aback to discover that the Vatican had a unique creature that they held in their possession. Father Abel then requested that Jula hand over his firearm because he is now being held for questioning in connection with a possible murder and insurrection. On the other hand, Jula insisted on continuing to fight, and Father Abel responded by telling him that he would not be able to defeat him. He also threatened to cut off Jula's second arm if he did not listen to him. However, Jula launched another assault as he closed in on Father Abel, who was holding his one and only arm. He stabbed Father Abel in the chest with his severed arm, stating that he could not play fair because he wanted to survive, and he asked Father Abel to stay out of the way of the two of them. Jula asserted that he would bring the Star of Sadness to Rome, and that the very center of mankind would be reduced to ashes with his destruction. It was for his wife that he was carrying out all of these actions. After that, he pierced Father Abel with numerous long fangs, thereby assuring that he would die. On the other hand, Father Abel then asked Jula, as he was dying, what he would do after he had taken revenge on his wife, and he explained that vengeance is nothing more than being an empty self. Then Jula charged at him in order to deliver the strike that would kill him. During the time that Esther is searching for Dietrich and wondering where he is, she is seen. The fact that she came to inquire about the self-destruct code for the Star of Sadness was something that Dietrich was aware of. Esther begged him to tell her that she would do everything to have the information. After that, he made the request for her to remain with him, claiming that he exerts control over her emotionally by manipulating her neurological system. In one instance, it has the potential to drug her and give her the impression that 10 guys are sexually assaulting her at the same time. However, he assured her that he would not engage in any behavior that is as extreme as that. After offering his apologies for going too far, he proceeded to hand her the code for the self-destruct function of the Star of Sorrow. He then told her that he had actually liked her before leaving. Following that, Esther ran back to the location where Father Abel was, recalling what she had seen on the day that they had first met, which was a black angel. When Jula saw Father Abel turned into a man with black wings, she was taken aback and became curious about whether or not he was an angel or a demon. While he was surprised to realize that Father Abel was sucking his blood through the wings, he had the impression that he was a monster. He could see that Father Abel was doing this. Next, Father Abel inflicted serious injuries onto Jula.